I need this to help me breathe. And she's like, well, I want that. I said, no, no, no. You don't want that. I want you to be you. And then you brighten up my day because you make me smile. And you know, she did the cutest thing. She put both hands on my face and she just pulled me and she kissed me and she said, I love you, TT. She's like, you always make everything right. And those little words from a 4-year-old, like, Jill, you can't even imagine how much it warmed and touched me yesterday, because I was like in such a bad place and triggered from the trauma that happened, and then thinking about the trauma that I experienced in my own life with losing my nephew. I just was like, it's important. And that's what made me think. I said, you know what, today we're going to use today's platform to share a little love out in the universe, because we have to feed the universe love, hope, and inspiration, because especially in a time like this, it is so needed. Oh. It is so needed, Jill.
Absolutely is. My goodness. Whew. Now, the type of work you do, I mean, obviously you work with those dealing with trauma of all sorts, right?
Right.
And part of the process after trauma is grief, right? The grieving process. Any advice to those out there that are grieving from losing a loved one in a situation like this, or just loss in general? How do you go through grief, and what are some of the steps that are normal, should be happening, and how could you get through it? It's amazing how resilient we are. During the time, you never see it that way, but most people can come out of it. Not everyone can. So what are some of the things that you should be doing during the grieving process?
Right. And so what I would say to that is everyone's grief is different because everyone's interactions are different, right? And you go through the different stages. You go through the beginning stage. You go through the denial stage that you can't even believe this happened. Then you go through the bargaining stage of, if you can bring my loved one back, I will do X, Y, and Z. And it's like, realistically, you know it can't happen, but it's a stage that your mind is just in because you're grieving so hard, and you just want your loved one, right? And then you go through the anger stage where you're just mad at the world, you're mad at everybody, because you just can't believe this thing is happening. And then you get to a stage where it's like, okay, I'm getting to a stage of understanding, and not so much, I don't like to say understandable, but it's more so of I'm transitioning to a space where I'm dealing with what's happening. And while you're going through all these different stages, because grief has no time limit, it's based on the individual and the way they process it. I say that it's okay to ask for help. Yeah. I say it's important to journal down, brain dump your emotions, whether you type it on a note, whether you use your phone, whether you have paper to pen, or pen to paper, it doesn't matter. Journal those things down, because the first 2 years is usually a blur for you.
Yeah.
The first 2, especially when you lose someone to such a violent act, like in Texas and Buffalo, you go through the first 2 years is a fog, because you can't even fathom to believe that this has happened, you know? So I definitely would say go through the process, and where you are is where you need to be within your own process, because it's your trauma, it's not anyone else's. And no one should try to rush you through that stage because of their level of comfortability. And so that's what happens, and that's why it's important for you to identify your circle of people who have your best interest at heart, your circle of people that know I am grieving and I need you to look out for me, because I might be to such a stage of grief that I think about self-harm because I'm not myself.
Yeah.
And that's why it's super important to check in on your friends and family members when they're going through grief, especially something like this, because depression kicks in so fast without them knowing. Depression, anxiety, like everything is tugging at them, and they are just trying to get through day by day, and they need to be surrounded with people who love and care and can let them cry and go through their emotions and not numb themselves, because it's a point during the grieving process where you have to feel the pain in order to come out on the other side, because the longer you block that pain out, it's going to eventually bubble up and come out on its own. Yeah. So there has to be a place that you allow yourself, as hard as it is, because trust me, it is extremely hard. is extremely difficult. Like even saying the words is an understatement for the process that you're going to go, that an individual goes through. But is until they can let themselves feel those emotions, is they won't be able to move forward.
Yeah.
And moving forward, and I just want to make sure I reiterate, moving forward does not mean leaving your loved one behind. Moving forward means you're getting to a place, you are transitioning to a place where you can allow yourself to enjoy the memories
Yep.
that you had with your loved ones. Because in the beginning stage, it's so difficult for you to even think about the good times, because you're hit with this trauma and it plays over and over and over again like a broken record, or a replay, instant replay, like Groundhog's Day in your mind, that is so difficult for you to see those memories. But until you can feel that, go through that stage and get to that place of acknowledgement that this is real, this did happen, you won't be able to enjoy the memories and the good times that you did have. And what's so heartbreaking outside of what happened, but what's even a thicker level of heartbreak with Texas is those parents didn't have much time. Those were babies.
Yeah.
Those were babies. They didn't have 20s and 30, 40, 50 years of memories. Those were babies. They were just coming into their court. They know their quirkiness, their personalities were just beginning to develop. Those were babies. So it's important. It's important to support one another, love one another, love someone a little extra today, because you never know when's the last time.
Yeah.
And you know, Jill, as a parent, the first thing after being aware of this, the first thing you want to do is go grab your babies and hug them and like, I love you.
Yeah.
Like, I can even see you sleeping with your babies that night. Like, I just need you to sleep in the bed with me because I got to be able to touch you. And so for us parents who still have our children and can do that, we can't even imagine the magnitude of grief and hurt these parents are having, because they'll never be able to have that again.
So true.
And that's why it's important to get into therapy. I would definitely say it's important. Even if you don't believe it or think it works, get into therapy, do some meditation. You have to be able to, when you are ready, be able to talk to someone that is going to allow you to go through the motions that you need to go through. And you may not be, and I'm sure they're not ready now, but when they are ready, they need to have someone that can be that listening ear and that support system.
Gosh, I mean, it's just a horrible, horrible thing. And, but people go through it and there's no answers. And it's just astounding that someone could even think like this to harm someone, especially children, no less. Gosh, it's so sickening. And I've been sick over it myself too. And I'm glad we're talking about it to bring awareness, because if you see something, say something, right? Like, yeah.